The first time I bought something at auction, it was a thrilling process. I had targeted this thing and I didn't know if anybody else cared about it, and it came up and I was bidding and there were 2 other bidders in the room and my heart started racing and I was scared and I didn't know if I would get it, and then I got it, and I remember my wife was sitting next to her and I was like, yes! And I reached over and I gave her a hug and I was so excited, and the auctioneer was like, sir, we need your paddle number. It's cool, man. I mean, not everybody has access to the primary market, but when they're at auction, when they're at Sotheby's, it's fair game. Whoever wants it most and who can never pay for it gets it.
I think people on the outside understand very little about auction houses. The first thing people don't know is this is like a department store of art. On any given day, you can go from floor to floor and see things that are here for a short period of time that are remarkable, and then, if you want, you can participate.
Some people love the spectacle of auction, that there are 1,000 people in this room, that we're sitting now on an auction night competing for pieces, and it's a very official, ceremonial enterprise that's happening at auction, and I think people like that.
When I was 26, I went to my first auction, a very large Warhol auction, and I just had to go see the glamour of the auction house. I was put in standing room, and then the second a seat opened, I just whittled my way up there and sat down.
The auction house is a unique medium. There's the immediacy of it, so people have to make up their minds. If they're dealing with a dealer, they can hem and haw and sort of think about it, whereas in an auction you have that moment and it's a more competitive thing.
I don't think auction is the only place to buy things, but it is a great place to buy things. Here, auctions, lots of buzz, lots of people. You could be a man off the street, you could be standing next to the Hong Kong billionaire, and yet you're treated very equally, I think.
It gives you a very special feeling, to be there.
Your last chance in the front, sir, at 8 million too.
You see so many friends, so many familiar faces.
20 million.
And they appear every time, when there is an auction.
50 million.
At auction, if you bid for something $20 million, but there was a bid at 19 just before you, it's a certain safety net that was like, oop, at least there's someone who would have spent 19 on what I spent 20 on. So it gives me it grounds me.
Thank you very much, Meaty. L0099, 70 million.
You try to put them at ease, you try to ask them what they really, really want, and you try and, put yourself in that position and say, look, if I'm that same person, or my sister is looking for something, my mother's looking for something, my cousin's looking for something, how would you want somebody to look after them?
Why do people buy and why do people sell? You need to get to their feelings before you actually can do a good job for it, because if you're just forcing the issue, they're never going to come together.
I always think of the art world as a giant jigsaw puzzle, where you know where the pieces are and you need to know who's looking for what.
Auction is not that 10 seconds when that piece is being sold. And then people make a decision.
The key is to constantly think about what picture might appeal to which client, and then see if something can come of it, both in terms of the buyer and in terms of the seller.
That thing is actually so interesting that there is one unique seller in the world and one unique buyer that they're going to meet. And that could be a very remote chance or could happen every day.
You can have many successes, but you have one big failure, and that's what people will always remember.
I think it's full of pit holes, and you need a shield.
There is a delicate balance between everyone involved, and it's even true with the auction houses, which is a tough thing for them to deal with, is that they also bear a certain responsibility because they're selling art at the end of the day. It's not just a commodity.
Of course, to the outside world, it looks glamorous. I don't think you can have success without really serious hard work and dedication. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's just selling a few pictures for 3 times what they're worth, making a lot of money and going back home at night. having exotic holidays in exotic places. That's about it. But this is a very superficial way of looking at it.
If you look at great museums, great public collections like the Met British Museum, of course, as a source of study, they're extraordinary institutions. But I think a personal collection, someone's personal view, someone's personal sort of lucid interpretation of a field can be even more fascinating.
When we meet a client or when we meet a new collector, somebody comes and looks at something and is emotionally moved, that's very satisfying. You get great satisfaction ultimately, not from the price you're paying, but from the person who buys it. If it means anything to him, then you're fully satisfied in what you have found and what you've sold.
The way I built most of my friendships with the collectors, with dealers, is really sharing passion for an object, for a field. It's not easy to find people that have that same sensitivity for certain things. I think that's what I love about my job.
Certainly a lot of people like me wouldn't have the opportunity to see and experience and buy and live with a lot of the art that we do.
Ultimately, it is about love and passion, what one does, and that is the greatest inspiration.
These objects connect us to